If this story moved you, we'd love to know. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below, and let's see how far this story travels. Your words might inspire someone else on their journey. And don't forget, a brand new chapter premieres tomorrow, filled with love, redemption, and the power of second chances. So be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that just might touch your heart. Until then, stay kind, stay hopeful, and thank you for being here. It was a golden afternoon in Austin, Texas. The sun dipped low across the sky, casting a soft amber hue on the quiet, tree-lined streets. As Miles Carter's sleek black Tesla rolled into the driveway of a house he hadn't visited in over 2 years, a storm of emotion welled up inside him. He parked slowly, turned off the ignition, and sat in silence. The memories of that place, once a home, flooded back. The laughter in the hallways, the holidays they spent as a family, and the eventual heartbreak when the marriage fell apart. But today wasn't about the past. Today, he was here for his daughter. Taking a deep breath, Miles stepped out of the car. His footsteps echoed against the stone path as he approached the door. Before he could knock, it creaked open. Alan, the longtime housekeeper, blinked in surprise. "Mr. Carter, I didn't know you were coming." "I'm here to see Lily," Miles said quietly, brushing past him. The house had changed. Photos of him had been replaced with abstract paintings. The smell of lavender and vanilla, his ex-wife's signature scent, was gone, replaced by something woody and artificial. Alan hesitated. She's around. In the kitchen, I believe." But before the man could finish, Miles heard something that made his heart sink. A soft, muffled sob. He followed the sound, his pace quickening as he rounded the corner. There, on the tiled kitchen floor, knelt his daughter, his little Lily. Just 7 years old, her tiny hands clutched a sponge as she scrubbed juice off the floor. Tears streamed silently down her face, her shoulders shaking. She didn't notice him at first. "Lily," Miles whispered, his voice cracking. She froze, her eyes widened when she looked up. "Daddy?" she breathed, dropping the sponge. He crossed the kitchen in 2 quick strides and dropped to his knees beside her, wrapping her in his arms. Her small body trembled as she sobbed into his chest. "I spilled my drink," she choked. "Mum said I had to clean everything, or I wouldn't eat dinner." Miles clenched his jaw, fury bubbling beneath his calm exterior. "That's not okay, sweetheart," he said, brushing her hair back. "You didn't do anything wrong. Accidents happen." He helped her to a chair, gently wiping her tears. "Stay right here. Daddy's going to talk to someone." As he turned and walked toward the living room, every step was heavy with determination. His little girl was supposed to be playing with dolls, not crying on a cold floor, and if no one else would protect her, he would. Miles stormed into the living room, his jaw tight and his fists clenched at his sides. The cozy decor and soft jazz playing in the background didn't soften what he was feeling, pure disbelief and anger. On the couch, sipping red wine and laughing, like it was just another evening, sat his ex-wife, Vanessa, and her new husband, Cole. "Vanessa," Miles said, his voice sharp like a blade slicing through the air. Vanessa's laugh died in her throat. She turned, startled. "Miles? What are you—" "I came to see my daughter," he cut her off, his voice low but intense. "And instead, I find her crying on the floor, scrubbing up juice like a maid." Cole stood up, puffing his chest in, that way guys do when they want to look tough. "Hey man, you can't just barge in here and—" "Sit down," Miles snapped, his eyes ice cold. "This has nothing to do with you." Vanessa stood, wineglass trembling slightly in her hand. "Miles, don't be dramatic. Lily made a mess. I told her to clean it. It's just teaching her responsibility." "She's 7, Miles said through clenched teeth, taking a step forward. "She was on her knees, Vanessa, crying, alone." Vanessa's expression faltered, guilt flickering behind her eyes, but pride kept her from backing down. She needs to learn actions have consequences. No, Miles said, louder now. Children need love, patience. They need to feel safe. That little girl is terrified, and you're sitting here drinking wine like it's nothing. From behind them, Lily peeked around the corner, her eyes red and swollen. Daddy, she whispered. Miles turned immediately and knelt, holding out his arms. It's okay, sweetheart. Come here. She ran into his embrace, and as he held her close, he made up his mind. We're leaving. Vanessa's voice trembled now. You can't just take her. I have custody. Miles looked over his shoulder, calm but firm. And I'll fight it, starting tonight. He stood, holding Lily protectively, and walked toward the door. Alan, he called, the housekeeper appearing from the hallway. Please pack a small bag for Lily. Clothes, essentials, whatever she needs. Vanessa followed, panic rising. You can't do this. You'll hear from my lawyer. Miles paused by the door, glancing down at Lily in his arms. Good, because you'll hear from mine. Then, without another word, he walked out into the night, his daughter clinging to him, the warmth of her small body, a reminder of what really mattered. As they drove off, city lights flickering through the windshield, Miles made a silent vow. No matter how long or hard the road ahead would be, he'd fight for his daughter with everything he had. The night was quiet, but Miles couldn't sleep. Every few minutes, he walked down the hall to check on Lily, who was now resting in the guest room of his downtown Dallas condo. The room was plain, white walls, a leather reading chair, and a large bed that swallowed her tiny frame, but it was warm, peaceful, safe. Still, the image of her scrubbing that cold floor haunted him. By 5 a.m., unable to take the restlessness any longer, he picked up his phone and called Rachel, his longtime assistant. I'm sorry to wake you, he said, his voice low. Miles? She responded groggily. Is everything okay? My daughter's with me now. I need you to cancel all my meetings for the next 2 days, maybe more. And Rachel, I need you to hire a children's interior designer. I want that guest room transformed into a real space for her. Soft colors, toys, books, whatever she needs. I don't care what it costs. I just want her to feel at home. Rachel's voice sharpened with focus. Got it. I'll make it happen. Later that morning, Miles walked into the office of Mark Holloway, his lawyer and longtime friend. Mark was already reviewing the situation, shaking his head. You realize what you did last night could backfire, right? Technically, Vanessa has primary custody. She could file kidnapping charges. I didn't take Lily out of revenge, Miles replied. I took her because she was in a toxic environment. She was crying while cleaning a floor alone, Mark. I get it, Mark said, flipping through paperwork. And honestly, we may have a case. Negligence, emotional distress. If we file for emergency custody and back it up with evidence, we might win. But we have to move fast. Do whatever it takes, Miles said, leaning forward. She's not going back there. Back home, decorators filled the hallway, swatches of pastel wallpaper and child-sized furniture, transforming the sterile room into a space of color and imagination. Rachel handled everything, directing teams with military precision. That afternoon, Miles made a surprise stop at a local toy store. He wandered the aisles aimlessly until a kind clerk noticed the lost look in his eyes. Shopping for your daughter? She asked. He nodded. 7 years old. I missed her last birthday. I want to make up for it. The clerk smiled and helped him choose dolls, puzzles, a princess-themed art set, and books about brave little girls. When he returned home, he found Lily wide-eyed at the transformation of her new room. Is this all for me? She asked, barely above a whisper. Miles knelt, pulling her into his arms. All yours, sweetheart. She hesitated. Even if I spill something again? His heart broke. Especially if you do. Your job is to be a kid. The messes, I'll handle them. As she hugged him tightly, Miles felt it. Certainty. The battle ahead would be long, but it was one he'd fight with everything he had. Because now, he had something more powerful than pride. He had purpose. By the time Monday rolled around, Miles was seated in the courtroom, staring down the woman he had once called his wife. Vanessa looked polished, as always, with her designer handbag perched neatly beside her. But beneath the perfect exterior, he could see it. Nerves. Fear. She hadn't expected him to fight. Mark leaned over, whispering, "Stay calm, Miles. The judge will be watching everything." When the hearing began, Vanessa's lawyer wasted no time painting Miles as impulsive, unstable, a workaholic who had no business raising a child alone. Miles gritted his teeth, forcing himself to sit still, to listen without reacting. Then it was Mark's turn. He presented photos, the ones Anthony, the butler, had secretly taken of Lily crying while cleaning. Witness statements followed from neighbors who heard shouting from inside the house late at night. Even Anthony, loyal to the family for years, testified about the neglect he had witnessed. When Lily's school counselor spoke, describing how Lily's behavior had changed, withdrawn, fearful, Miles clenched his fists beneath the table, rage burning through him, but he kept his expression neutral. This wasn't about revenge. This was about Lily. Finally, the judge spoke, his voice steady. Given the evidence of emotional negligence, the court awards temporary full custody to Mr. Miles Carter. Mrs. Vanessa Carter will have supervised visitation until further review. Miles felt his body sag with relief. He looked across the courtroom to see Vanessa's face crumble, her lawyer leaning in to speak to her in hushed tones. For a moment, he almost felt pity. Almost. Outside the courtroom, the autumn air was crisp, the sky clear and blue. Miles knelt in front of Lily, who had been waiting with Rachel nearby. "You're coming home with me, princess," he said, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. Lily's face lit up, her smile so pure it nearly undid him. "Forever, Daddy?" He pulled her close. Forever. The days that followed were busy but joyful. Lily settled into her new room with an excitement that touched every corner of Miles's heart. They had movie nights, pancake breakfasts, afternoons spent reading in the park. Miles rearranged his work schedule, taking meetings from home, leaving the office early when he had to. Every night, he tucked Lily into bed himself, reading her a story until she drifted off to sleep. But the shadows of the past weren't gone, yet. One evening, while folding laundry, Miles received a text from Vanessa. "You can't keep her from me forever. I'll fight you. You haven't won." Miles stared at the screen, his jaw tightening. He knew this wasn't over. Vanessa's pride wouldn't let it be. But as he glanced toward Lily's room, where soft giggles drifted through the door as she played with her dolls, a calm certainty settled over him. No matter how hard the battle ahead, no matter how dirty Vanessa decided to play, he wasn't backing down. Not now. Not ever. Because this time, he wasn't fighting for himself. He was fighting for Lily. It had been 3 weeks since the court awarded Miles full custody, and on the surface, things were starting to feel normal again. Lily laughed more. She slept peacefully through the night. Her drawings, once dark, chaotic scribbles, were now filled with princesses, castles, and bright yellow suns. But beneath the surface, Miles knew better. Peace was never permanent when you shared a past with someone like Vanessa. It was a quiet Friday evening when it happened. Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, clutching her stuffed rabbit, her favorite movie still playing softly in the background. Miles was in the kitchen, putting away dishes, when he heard the front doorknob rattle. Then, pounding, he froze. More, banging. Then a voice. "Miles! Open the damn door!" Vanessa. Miles calmly walked to the door and opened it just enough to stand in the gap. Vanessa stood there, mascara smudged, her high heels wobbling under her. The smell of alcohol hit him. Immediately. "You can't keep her from me," she slurred. "She's my daughter too." "You're drunk, Vanessa," Miles said coldly. "You need to leave." "I want to see her. Now." "No. You'll see her when you're sober. When it's safe. This is exactly why the judge ruled. The way he did! Vanessa lunged, trying to push her way inside. Miles blocked her, pushing her back gently but firmly. "Get your hands off me," she screamed, loud enough to wake the dead, or in this case, the neighbors. Porch lights flickered. On down the street, curtains shifted. Miles took a step back and called over his shoulder. "Rachel, can you please call the police?" Rachel, his assistant-turned-lifesaver, appeared from the hallway with her phone already in hand. Already dialing. Vanessa froze. Her eyes darted toward Rachel, then back at Miles. "You'd really do this to me? To Lily?" "I'm doing this for Lily," Miles replied, "because she deserves better than this." Minutes later, the police arrived. Vanessa was belligerent, shouting that she was being set up. But the breathalyzer told the truth. They escorted her away, screaming, threatening to take Lily back. That night, Miles sat on the edge of Lily's bed, watching her sleep. His hands shook. He'd known Vanessa would make a move, but he hadn't expected her to be so reckless, so desperate. The next morning, Mark, his lawyer, met him at the kitchen table, sipping coffee as he scrolled through his tablet. "This works in your favor," Mark said. "We can use this incident to request a protective order and seek full, permanent custody." Miles nodded slowly. "I don't want Lily living in fear ever again." Mark looked up. "You're doing everything right, Miles. But be ready. Vanessa's not going to go down quietly." Miles didn't need the warning. He already knew, because when someone's ego is bigger than their love, they don't stop until they've destroyed something or someone. But Miles had already made a vow. He would protect Lily no matter what it took, even if it meant going to war. The restraining order was granted within days. Miles hadn't expected the legal system to move so quickly, but the footage from his doorbell camera, Vanessa yelling, slurring, and being hauled off by officers, spoke louder than any testimony. The judge had seen enough. Still, the victory felt hollow, because Lily, who used to hum herself to sleep, now asked to sleep with the lights on. Every night. "Is Mommy mad at me?" she whispered one night, curled up beside Miles in bed, her small hand gripping his tightly. "No, sweetheart," he said gently, brushing her hair back. "Mommy's just not well right now, but it's not your fault, not even a little bit." She nodded, but her eyes told a different story, one of confusion, guilt, and fear no child should ever carry. That's when Miles made a decision. The next morning, he cancelled a board meeting, cleared his calendar, and drove Lily across town to a children's therapist named Dr. Elena Wells, a warm, soft-spoken woman with kind eyes and an office full of plush animals and glitter-filled sensory bottles. The moment Lily stepped inside, something shifted. She didn't cling to Miles like usual. Instead, she gravitated toward the play area, exploring quietly while Dr. Wells asked a few gentle questions. Miles sat outside, anxiety twisting in his chest like a vice. He wasn't used to feeling helpless. He was a man who solved problems. But this was out of his control. When the session ended, Dr. Wells joined him in the waiting area. "She's hurting," she said softly, "but she's resilient. With time, consistency, and a safe environment, she'll heal." "Consistency," Miles repeated. "That I can do." And he meant it. From that day forward, Miles rewrote his life around Lily's healing. Morning drop-offs turned into afternoon. Ice cream dates, work calls paused the moment Lily came home. Evenings were spent colouring, building pillow forts, or reading her favourite fairy tales, even if it meant rereading the same story 5 times in a row. But healing wasn't linear. One evening, while folding laundry, Miles heard Lily screaming from her room. He sprinted down the hall, heart in his throat, and found her in bed, drenched in sweat, sobbing from a nightmare. "It was Mommy," she gasped. "She was yelling again. She said she's coming to get me." Miles held her until the trembling stopped. "She can't hurt you, baby, I promise. No one's going to take you away." The nightmare shook him more than he admitted. The next day, he met with Mark and asked a question he'd been avoiding for weeks. What would it take for me to terminate her parental rights? Mark blinked. That's a serious step, Miles. No, Miles said, jaw tight. But I won't let Lily live in fear. Mark nodded. We'll need more than just that footage. But if Vanessa continues down this path, and Lily's therapist supports it, we'll have a case. Miles exhaled, staring out the window. It wasn't a path he wanted to take. But if it was the only way to truly protect his daughter, he was ready to fight this time, not just for custody, but for peace, for good. The following week brought a storm neither Miles nor Mark had anticipated. A subpoena. Vanessa had hired a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, her family's old pit bull, Henry Blake, the kind of attorney who thrived on chaos and didn't blink twice, before dragging a 7-year-old child into a courtroom if it meant winning. She's fighting back, Mark said as he slid the documents across the table in Miles's office. Petitioning for full custody. She's claiming you manipulated. Lily against her, used your money and influence to alienate her. Miles stared at the papers, rage boiling beneath his calm exterior. She barely called for months. Now she wants to play Mother of the Year? Mark leaned forward. She's trying to build a case based on emotional manipulation and control, the kind of stuff that doesn't always show up in black and white. And with her family's money behind her, we can't underestimate it. It was a gut punch, just when Lily was beginning to smile more, sleep peacefully, and stop flinching at the sound of raised voices. I'm not going to let her undo everything we've built, Miles said, voice low but steady. Still, the legal war that followed wasn't clean. Vanessa began appearing in public with Lily's photos, smiling with old pictures like they were fresh. She posted cryptic captions about being a mother torn apart and launched a smear campaign, subtle, targeted, and devastating. But Miles had a plan. He didn't stoop to her level. Instead, he documented everything, every therapy session, every night Lily woke up crying, every missed call, every unreturned message from Vanessa in the months she went silent. He filed it all neatly, methodically, like a man building his final case. Meanwhile, Lily began to ask hard questions. Why does Mommy say you stole me? She asked one day after ballet class, her voice small, uncertain. Miles knelt beside her, heart heavy, because Mommy is hurting, and sometimes people say things when they don't know how to handle pain. But you weren't stolen, sweetheart. You're not something to be taken. You're someone to be loved. Lily looked at him for a long moment before whispering, I want to stay with you. Miles hugged her tightly. Then I'll do everything I can to make that happen. The hearing was scheduled for early June. In the days leading up to it, the house grew quieter. Lily sensed the tension, even if she didn't understand it. Miles spent nights pacing, reviewing statements, rereading transcripts from the therapist, organizing files until dawn. Then, on the night before the hearing, something unexpected happened. Vanessa showed up at his door, alone. No cameras, no lawyer. Just her, sober, quiet, and broken. I need to talk, she said, her voice trembling. Not about court, about Lily. I don't think I can win this, but I don't want to lose her forever. Miles stared at her, torn between caution and compassion, and in that moment he realized the final battle wasn't about courtrooms or custody, it was about redemption, and Lily's future hung in the balance. Miles didn't speak for a long time. The sight of Vanessa, no makeup, no designer coat, just trembling in the doorway, wasn't something he'd ever expected. Not from her. He stepped aside. Vanessa entered slowly, like she wasn't sure she was welcome. Her eyes scanned the apartment, the toys on the floor, Lily's ballet shoes by the couch, the drawing taped to the fridge that read, Home with Daddy. She sat on the edge of the couch, her hands gripping each other tightly. I watched a video last night, she said quietly, of Lily at school, during her class recital. Miles sat across from her, guarded. And she looked happy, Vanessa whispered. Really happy. She was dancing like nothing in the world hurt her anymore. He nodded, unsure where this was going. I didn't think you could do it, she admitted, looking up at him with watery eyes. Be a dad, the kind she needs. But I was wrong. That hit harder than Miles expected. He wasn't sure if it was relief, sadness, or the bitter sweetness of being seen after years of being doubted. I never wanted to be the bad guy, Vanessa added, voice trembling. But somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing Lily as a child and started seeing her as a weapon in our war. Miles leaned forward. So why now? Why show up here the night before the hearing? Because I've already lost her, she said, barely able to hold back tears. And maybe I deserved to. Silence filled the room. Outside, Los Angeles buzzed with life, but in that apartment, time had slowed. Miles looked at the woman he once loved, the mother of his child, now finally stripped of all the layers she'd built to protect herself. What do you want, Vanessa? She took a deep breath. A different ending. Not for me, for Lily. I want to step back, not disappear. Just learn how to be part of her life without tearing it apart. You're saying you want to settle? She nodded. You keep primary, custody. I'll have visits. Maybe at first they're supervised. I'll go to therapy, do the work. But don't cut me out. For the first time in months, Miles saw sincerity in her eyes. No schemes, no courtroom strategy. Just a mother trying to find her way back. He leaned back, letting the weight of the moment settle. I'll talk to Mark, he said slowly. We'll draft a new agreement. But this is it, Vanessa. You break her heart again, there won't be a second chance. I understand, she whispered. A soft voice interrupted them, Lily, rubbing her eyes, peeking into the room. Mommy, Vanessa stood, her voice catching. Hi, baby, Lily blinked in surprise, then slowly smiled. Miles watched as Lily ran into her mother's arms, and for the first time, he didn't feel fear. He felt hope. The days that followed were quieter, calmer, like the tension that had once clung to every hallway in Miles's apartment had finally begun to lift. Vanessa kept her word. She didn't push, didn't demand. She simply showed up, on time, humble, and always asking what Lily needed instead of assuming she knew. The first few visits were brief, almost awkward. Vanessa would sit at the edge of Lily's new pink rug while her daughter colored, sometimes talking, sometimes just sitting in silence. But even in the stillness, something was healing. One afternoon, after a rainy morning kept them indoors, Lily asked to bake cookies. Miles was covered in flour within minutes, laughing as she attempted to crack eggs like a pro. When Vanessa arrived, for her short visit, she hesitated at the door when she smelled the vanilla and sugar in the air. Come in, Miles said, surprising even himself. They're chocolate chip, Lily's choice. Vanessa smiled, softly, genuinely, and stepped inside. They baked as a trio, and when the cookies were finally done, Lily sat between them on the couch, crumbs on her cheeks, head resting on her father's shoulder. I want us all to be friends, she said suddenly, not looking at either of them. Even if we don't live in the same house. The moment pierced both parents like a blade and a balm. Miles looked at Vanessa, and for the first time, saw not the woman who broke his heart, but the mother Lily still hoped she could be. Later that evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Vanessa lingered in the kitchen. You've built something beautiful here, she said, wiping her hands on a dish towel. A life I never gave you the chance to have. Miles poured her a cup of tea, sliding it across the counter. It wasn't easy, but she made it worth it. I'm not asking for more than I deserve, Vanessa added, her voice steady. Just a chance to earn her trust again, slowly, on your terms. Miles nodded. Then we do it one day at a time. They met with Mark the next day to revise the custody plan. Miles retained primary custody, and Vanessa was granted structured visitations with the option to expand based on Lily's comfort level and Vanessa's consistency. It was official, but more importantly, it was right. A few weeks later, Lily had a recital. As she stepped onto the small stage in her lavender tutu, she spotted both of them in the crowd, her dad waving like always, and next to him, her mum, clutching flowers and wearing the same nervous smile. Lily's face lit up, and for Miles, that smile was everything. Not because it meant everything was perfect, but because it meant they were trying, healing, becoming something new. Not a broken family, a rebuilding one. And as Lily danced under the soft glow of the auditorium lights, Miles knew this was the start of a new chapter, one filled with hope. Spring arrived with the quiet grace of fresh beginnings. Lily was turning 9 soon, older in ways that had nothing to do with numbers. Her handwriting had neatened, her questions had gotten deeper, and the way she looked at the world now, more curious, less afraid, said everything about the healing that had taken root in their little family. Miles watched her from the porch one Saturday morning, twirling in the sunlight, arms out like she could hug the whole sky. Vanessa stood beside him, holding 2 mugs of coffee. There was no tension anymore, just a rhythm they'd found. Imperfect, but steady. You ever think about how different things could have turned out? Vanessa asked, eyes on Lily. All the time, Miles admitted, sipping his coffee. But maybe different doesn't mean better. Vanessa nodded. Maybe it means less true. That afternoon, Lily surprised them both with a bold announcement over lunch. My school has an exchange program, she said, between bites of grilled cheese. To France, for 3 weeks. Can I go? Miles nearly dropped his fork. France? Madame Foster says it's the chance of a lifetime, Lily explained. I'd stay with a host family, go to school, practice French every day. Please? Miles glanced at Vanessa. She looked equally stunned, but there was something proud in her expression too. Later, once Lily was off playing, they sat at the dining table, reviewing the information packet she'd left behind. Flights, host family bios, teacher contacts. It was all so real, so soon. I want to say yes, Vanessa said quietly. But I also want to say no, then hug her for the next 3 weeks straight. Miles laughed, nodding. Same, but that night, after tucking Lily in, after talking through the what-ifs and maybes, they made the decision together. She was ready. The next few weeks flew by in a whirlwind of preparations. Passport photos, packing lists, phone plans, last-minute, French phrases. On the morning of her departure, the airport buzzed with noise, announcements, and the shuffle of 100 suitcases. Lily held both her parents' hands, eyes wide, nervous and thrilled all at once. I'll text every day, she promised, and video call, and bring you back real croissants. We'll hold you to that, Miles said, pulling her in for a hug. Vanessa kissed her forehead, brushing back a loose strand of hair. Be brave, baby, be curious, and have the time of your life. As they waved goodbye, watching her disappear through the gate, something shifted. Not sadness, not even fear, just pride, deep, wide, and steady. That night, back at Miles's place, the quiet felt heavier than usual. Vanessa lingered at the doorway before leaving. She's going to be just fine, she said. Miles nodded, because we finally are. The porch light flicked on behind them. A soft breeze blew through the trees, and for the first time in a long, long time, everything felt exactly where it should be. Not a perfect ending, but a beautiful beginning. This story wasn't just about a father, a mother, and their daughter. It was about second chances, quiet courage, and the kind of love that doesn't always look picture perfect, but still holds strong. If you've made it to the end of this journey with us, we want to hear from you. Where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Let's see how far this story has traveled and how many hearts it's touched. Have you ever experienced a moment where love meant letting go or rebuilding something that once felt broken. What did this story make you feel, remember, or hope for? We read every comment, and your reflections help this community grow stronger, kinder, and more connected. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell icon, because tomorrow, a brand new chapter is coming your way. And trust us, it's one you won't want to miss. Until then, thank you for being here, for feeling with us, and for believing that even the most unconventional families can write the most beautiful stories together.